John Deere has sent shockwaves through the $34 billion U.S. farming industry, triggering widespread concern among farmers, manufacturers, and investors. With crop prices falling, equipment demand plummeting, and layoffs mounting, the agricultural landscape is undergoing a dramatic transformation. The company, long regarded as a symbol of reliability and innovation, is now grappling with forces that threaten its legacy. Once the bedrock of American farming, John Deere's iconic green machinery is facing dwindling demand, prompting scaled-back production and workforce reductions. These changes highlight a broader crisis that stretches beyond one company. The industry as a whole is contending with shrinking profits, rising costs, and fierce global competition that is redefining the economics of farming. As uncertainty spreads, everyone from small family farmers to major investors is being forced to adapt. What's unfolding at John Deere is not an isolated disruption. It's a signal of deeper structural shifts that could permanently alter the future of agriculture in the United States. Stay with us as we explore the forces behind this unfolding crisis and the widespread consequences it brings. To truly grasp why the demand for farming equipment is in freefall, we must start with the core issue: plummeting crop prices and the heavy toll they're taking on farmers. Across the U.S., farmers are facing the sobering reality of investing a year's worth of labor only to see their harvests fetch far less than anticipated. Prices for essential crops like corn, soybeans, and wheat have dropped sharply over the past 2 years. Corn alone has fallen by an alarming 37% since 2022. Soybeans have declined 24%. And wheat is down 35%. These figures are not just abstract statistics. They reflect painful financial losses for farmers who depend on these crops to make a living. As prices fall, so does the revenue farmers bring in from their harvests, making it increasingly difficult to cover operating costs. Many are now forced to postpone or abandon plans to purchase new machinery, even when their current equipment is outdated and inefficient. With tractors and harvesters costing tens of thousands of dollars, such investments are no longer feasible for small and family-run farms working within narrow profit margins. Instead, farmers must rely on patching up aging equipment, an approach that often leads to more breakdowns and rising maintenance expenses. These individual struggles point to a deeper, more systemic problem rippling through the agricultural sector. Understanding these pressures is crucial because falling crop prices and declining equipment sales are only the tip of the iceberg. At the heart of the crisis is a much deeper issue: global overproduction. Once seen as an industry on the brink of the food shortages due to rising global populations, agriculture is now facing a very different challenge: an overwhelming surplus of key crops. This shift stems from a mix of rapid technological advancements, heightened global competition, and evolving market dynamics. For years, forecasts suggested that nations like China would drive massive demand for imported food, prompting farmers and agribusinesses to ramp up production. The result was a significant boost in global crop output. But instead of the sustained demand surge many anticipated, countries like China have taken a different path. By heavily investing in agricultural technology, irrigation systems, and efficiency-focused practices, China has greatly increased its domestic food production, slashing its reliance on imports and contributing to a global glut of crops like corn and soybeans. This oversupply has had serious consequences. With production far outpacing demand, crop prices have plunged, putting immense financial pressure on farmers, not just in the US, but around the world. Markets once considered reliable have become unstable, and the industry is now scrambling to adjust to a reality no one expected. The transition from food scarcity fears to surplus-driven instability has exposed significant weaknesses in long-term agricultural planning and revealed the fragility of global supply chains. But the impact doesn't stop with falling prices. Even as farmers see their earnings drop, they're also being hit by rising operational costs, pushing them further into a financial corner. It's the harsh reality of running a business where revenue is shrinking and expenses are only going up. For many farmers, this isn't just a theoretical concern. It's a daily struggle. Financial pressures have mounted sharply in recent years, creating an environment where survival is far from guaranteed. While crop prices have steadily declined, the costs of essential farming inputs like fuel, seeds and fertilizers have continued to climb. Fertilizer prices, for example, surged during the pandemic and have remained stubbornly high due to ongoing supply chain disruptions and international trade tensions. Diesel fuel, another critical necessity for farming operations, has also seen erratic and often elevated pricing, further eroding already thin profit margins. These rising costs make profitability elusive, particularly for small-scale farmers who don't benefit from the cost-saving advantages enjoyed by large agribusinesses. With such tight margins, even minor disruptions, such as a delayed delivery, an unexpected repair, or a sudden market shift, can push farmers into financial crisis. The challenges aren't confined to the fields. Equipment manufacturers, like John Deere, are also under pressure. As more farmers are forced to delay or cancel equipment purchases, companies face shrinking sales and are responding with production cuts and layoffs. This creates a damaging cycle where reduced income leads to lower demand, which then impacts industrial output and jobs. What we're seeing is not a short-term downturn, but a sign of a deeper shift in the agricultural economy. Both farmers and manufacturers are being compelled to confront a future where long-standing assumptions no longer hold. This shift is especially devastating for small farmers, the true backbone of American agriculture. These family-run operations, which not only supply a substantial portion of the nation's food, but also carry on generations of farming tradition, are at risk like never before. Declining crop prices and soaring input costs are pushing many to the brink. A small corn or soybean farm, for instance, may have experienced a revenue drop of over 30% in just 2 years. At the same time, the cost of essentials like fertilizer and fuel has in some cases doubled compared to pre-pandemic levels. Unlike large corporate farms that can absorb such shocks, small farmers often operate without a safety net. The result is a growing number of farm closures and a looming question: what happens to the agricultural landscape when its most vital contributors can no longer endure the strain? Small farmers facing financial strain are increasingly forced to make painful decisions, cutting corners by repairing outdated equipment instead of replacing it, downsizing their operations, or even selling off parts of their land just to stay afloat. The impact isn't only financial, it's deeply personal. For many, farming is more than a livelihood. It's a legacy, a way of life passed down through generations. Watching a family farm falter or fail brings an emotional burden that is difficult to quantify. Stories of multi-generational farms being sold off are becoming distressingly common, sending ripples through rural communities. When these farms close, the effects spread quickly. Equipment dealers, seed suppliers, local mechanics, and countless other businesses that depend on small farms all feel the sting. The loss of a farm isn't just a loss of income, it's the erosion of identity, culture, and local economies. Recognizing and understanding the plight of these farmers is essential to tackling the wider issues threatening the agricultural sector and crafting solutions that offer real, lasting support. But the crisis doesn't stop at the farm gate. Major players like John Deere are also under intense pressure. Long regarded as a titan of the industry, John Deere is now navigating challenges that seemed unthinkable just a few years ago. The brand has long stood as a symbol of reliability and technological excellence in farming, with its green tractors representing a cornerstone of American agriculture. Yet even this iconic manufacturer is not immune to the mounting economics strain. Faced with reduced demand for new machinery, John Deere has seen its sales decline and has responded by scaling back production and laying off workers. At the heart of the company's dilemma is the financial hardship of its customers. With crop prices falling and costs rising, farmers are holding off on large capital expenditures like new equipment. Many are making do by repairing existing machinery rather than investing in replacements. This widespread pullback has hit John Deere's bottom line hard, setting off a chain reaction. Declining sales lead to reduced revenue, which in turn forces the company to make tough operational decisions. The most visible and painful of these has been job cuts. Layoffs have been announced at multiple John Deere facilities, sending shockwaves through communities that rely heavily on the company for employment. For many of these workers, John Deere is more than just a job. It's a source of community pride, and a pillar of local economic stability. Losing these jobs doesn't just affect the individuals who held them, it sends shockwaves through entire communities. Local businesses, from grocery stores to auto repair shops, depend on the steady spending of workers employed by companies like John Deere. When those jobs disappear, so does the economic activity that sustains these small enterprises. It's a sobering illustration of how deeply interconnected the agricultural ecosystem is. John Deere's current struggles make one thing clear: no company, no matter how storied or iconic, is immune to the brutal realities of shifting markets and global volatility. The pressing question now is not just how John Deere will weather the storm, but how the broader industry can evolve to meet the challenges of this new era. Complicating the situation further is the global nature of agriculture itself. The very international markets that once represented growth and prosperity are now contributing to the crisis. Agriculture today operates on a global scale, with prices, demand, and trade policies in one part of the world having profound ripple effects elsewhere. For much of the last decade, countries like China were seen as pivotal to the future of U.S. agriculture. With a huge population and limited arable land, China was expected to drive demand for American crops and farming equipment. But that boom never fully came. Instead, China embarked on a path of agricultural self-sufficiency, pouring investments into domestic technology, infrastructure, and efficiency. As a result, China now meets much of its food demand internally, drastically reducing its reliance on imports. This shift has had a significant impact on global markets, contributing to a glut in supply and driving prices down. And it's not just about crops. China's domestic machinery manufacturers have stepped up in a big way, producing increasingly advanced, affordable farm equipment. This not only dampens demand for imports like John Deere's tractors within China, but also introduces new competition in other international markets. For American manufacturers, the loss of China as a growth engine and the rise of Chinese equipment in global markets is a 1-2 punch. The situation underscores how local problems are often symptoms of broader global trends. To address the challenges effectively, companies and policymakers alike must understand these global dynamics. Meanwhile, as farmers continue to grapple with volatile markets and disappointing export prospects, another relentless challenge continues to squeeze their margins: the surging costs of essential inputs. The very tools and resources farmers need to succeed are becoming increasingly unaffordable, turning daily operations into a financial tightrope walk. The cost of farming has always been substantial, but recent years have pushed it to unsustainable levels. Prices for essentials like seeds, fertilizer, and fuel have surged, leaving farmers with shrinking margins and fewer options. Fertilizer costs, for example, have doubled in many regions due to persistent supply chain issues and ongoing geopolitical tensions. Diesel fuel, vital for running tractors and harvesters, has become increasingly volatile in price, making it difficult for farmers to budget effectively. These soaring expenses hit small and mid-sized farms the hardest, as they lack the buying power and financial flexibility that larger agribusinesses enjoy. Every extra dollar spent on inputs is a dollar not available for equipment upgrades, maintenance, or paying down debt. As a result, many farmers are forced to make painful decisions, delaying needed investments, scaling back operations, or taking on more debt just to survive another season. But the burden of rising costs isn't just falling on the shoulders of farmers. Equipment manufacturers like John Deere are also facing financial headwinds. Higher production costs, fueled by more expensive raw materials and transportation, are colliding with falling demand, making it harder for companies to maintain profitability without raising prices. This dilemma forces them to walk a tightrope, trying to stay competitive while also addressing the economic realities of their customer base. The dual pressure on both ends of the supply chain, producers and suppliers, points to a deeper structural problem that demands innovation and adaptation. One promising avenue for relief lies in precision agriculture. As traditional methods become increasingly costly and inefficient, precision farming technologies offer a path toward greater sustainability and profitability. By leveraging tools like GPS-guided tractors, satellite imagery, drones, soil sensors, and real-time analytics, farmers can optimize every stage of their operations. Precision agriculture allows for smarter use of resources, targeting water, fertilizer, and pesticides exactly where they're needed, rather than applying them uniformly across an entire field. This leads to higher yields, lower costs, and reduced environmental impact. Picture a farmer deploying a drone to survey a field. Within minutes, the drone maps out detailed insights on soil variation, moisture content, and crop health. With that data, the farmer knows exactly where to irrigate more, where to cut back, and where to apply nutrients. The result is a finely tuned operation that minimizes waste and maximizes returns. In a time when every cent counts, precision agriculture is not just a technological luxury. It's becoming a necessary tool for survival and competitiveness in the modern farming landscape.